The labels of love. How many of us are labeling ourselves? Very few, right? We use labels of love all the time when we're on the soul level, right? Very few labels get put onto soul visions when we come into that vision of love for ourselves. If it ignites the passion for all of us, we might say something like, I inhabit the vision of an ecstatic, right? Or the love of soul, right? Those visions of love are always there. But what are we talking about when we say the labels of love? This is when people are starting to imbibe upon the vision of, I need to label myself something other than what others are. And when I do that vision, it's like a caretaking of our own hearts. There's that vision. How many people want to know I get challenged by the souls of my family, right? Not even close. Most people assume they know who they are. That's the difference. So you see, when you start to embody your own soul, you realize that it's a whole different ball game. We're not here talking about the pleasures of the body, right? It's about the vision of love of soul, right? So it's not about saying, my body is well, this is someone else that's going to talk about that vision of what, if I label myself something, doesn't it put out a vision towards others? It's an identifier of some sort of who I think I am. Now, what happens when others start placing labels upon other people? Is it a loving, caring gesture, or are you trying to take someone down in their vibration? How many people are going to start to stand up and cheer? This is why we don't take on those labels of racist. Yes, I'm standing up for all of us. I have racial biases. I fight for the inequality of souls on a soul level. Do you want to hear about the souls that come down and say you're going to get your hat handed to you by a developmental soul that says you aren't ready for the big time because you won't own up to the vision of, if I label myself a racist, then that means that you are too. We all are. So if this is the nature of it, if I'm a Christian, everyone's Christian. If I'm Hindu, everyone's Hindu. These are the names and places that people are going to start placing on anything, right? Now, oh, wait, can't be from a culture. It's a belief system. Right? So do I have a belief in the vision of I am of all? This is those highest levels of understanding where it's either all or nothing. And that's why most people don't want to go to that level of I love all of my hearts. That's what our souls say. I love all my hearts, all my soul visions, all my beings of love and light. Those peace lovers of the world that will say, I have to do this within the system, otherwise I get rejected by the culture in which I'm residing in this moment. I don't demean you by telling you that. I'm honestly telling you what you will hear from souls. You will either vibrate in the beauty of love, or you will start to lower your vibration and start to hear those souls who will try to take you down in it. And instead of saying to them, I'm not taking that on as an identity, I will say, I am there in that moment of saying, I understand. I have work to do, not only on myself, but in the systems that helped me spiral myself up into the vision of love of all. Okay? This is the hardest part that people are going to have with that identity crisis. How many people say, I'm having identity crisis visions? People are saying, I am of God. I am of soul. Everyone, I am of Christ. I am of Jesus. Everyone will say they have these visions of higher than, but your soul won't back up anybody's vision of less than. Guaranteed. And others will say that's a cop-out. Does it mean we don't do our work? No, it does not. In fact, this was the whole idea. So those ideas of what pronouns do we use? This was the vision that was brought to this one's heart. When we do a vision of love, and as we say women and men, it's meant for all. We should say souls. And now I could address you all as souls. The complete package comes to you when you do the work of love. This is what so many people are afraid of. We can't handle the vision of, I'm going to discredit someone else's vision, right? People can come at me with their visions of, I know better. That's your soul producing the beautiful vision of love. You can call me whatever you want. Does it mean I take it on as an identity? Or does it mean that you're trying to make a statement or a point? See, it depends. What I label myself as is way more important than what anyone else does, to be honest. And I want everyone to think about that very carefully. How many people are willing to open themselves up to taking on the labels of someone else that they land those blows? Souls don't do that vision. They might tell you you have issues to work out. So while those visions of pronouns are very much of love, it's actually, in a way, more embodying a soul vision, because you're not all the same sex in your vision of, I'm a multidimensional being of love. How many people know that? When you go into those higher realms of soul, gender visions or neutrality are not necessarily always there. It can be what vision of love you want to portray yourself as once you get to that other level of understanding and start creating from fields of vision that most on the screen are already starting to kind of understand. This is the nature of it. Does it help us here? This is the vision that we usually go for. What's going to help us here? This is about imbibing upon the heart-centered soul's vision. You see, some will say, I was identifying as a Christ-centered soul. What does that mean? Whose vision of it? His? As he was? Or which soul? That's part of the Christ soul. Because there's not just one vision of it, right? Everyone has their own ideas of what Christ means or was or is now. That vision continues to create from various levels of understanding. And that's what people need to start to understand. So those of you that are waiting for that third soul to come, right? The return of Christ, it's not going to be in the same way that most people would assume. And that's the nature of it. So those of you still, though, it's about staying within the vision of love for your own soul first and foremost. That's what soul embodiment is. You will see those visions of higher selves brought through by those characters in the plays of life, right? Those of, quote, evil or hatred that get loved. Doesn't that open your mind to the nature of why a higher level being isn't going to be told anything other than that they're loved by their own soul? How many people need people to stay on this realm to help us wind ourselves up to that nature of, well, what does that serve us? Like, or how does that serve us here? This is the nature. It's literally about saying those labels that we place upon ourselves are very much strong in what we create with others. I will either offend somebody by saying I'm not going to take on the vision of what that is, or I can say I will imbibe upon the vision, play it out in my mind, unwind it is where I usually go. For the most part, I can pretty much unwind any label that anyone claims they're going to place on anybody else. It's a perspective only. Now, does that mean I'm challenging those who are here for change? Absolutely not. I encourage you to keep providing beautiful visions of love for us, to open our hearts to as much vision of wisdom as we can. I love that vision of I need people to feel the vision of I am of power and I am depowering you or dethroning you in your racial biases, right? Or the power inequity. It's a power struggle. It's more than that, the systems of oppression. We're not going to go into that right now, but it's part of the big ideas of those of us who are in the spiritual enlightenment. And that's where a lot of those discord moments will come through, saying, I can't handle that. I need you to take this label on to wake you up to who you think you are. Do you think a soul like me is going to be able to look at you and say, do you want to know who you really are? I can bring through that love of beauty for anybody on the screen. And I can guarantee you, you will not be calling anyone any names when you go to that higher level of love. It's the results of racial inequity that we are going to tackle on another episode. I'm not demeaning those who are doing that vision. I love you, by the way. I do, because it wakes us up. Oh my gosh, we need to do something. That's what a lot of people are saying. Oh, these are the woke people. We're not going to demean the vision of what that actually means, and we encourage people to actually look up what that terminology is related to. It has nothing to do with liberal agendas. It is purely about a certain level of understanding for it's like the Black community. Various people will understand that. People are using words to label people negatively when something was a beautiful word and vision for their communities. Okay? So we are encouraging people to really consider looking at those words or ideas that we label ourselves with or others and ask yourself, what's my intention in doing this vision? Am I here to educate? Am I here to enlighten? Am I here to pass along the wisdom of love from various souls? Martin Luther King Jr. was disrespected in his heart, right? By the notion of racial inequities being bypassed by a lot of spiritual enlightenment visions. Do you want to know what a reverend would say? Or the man or the soul as he was or as he is? He would say, fight like nobody else. Fight, fight, fight. Because spiritual alignment is going to rise and you all need to fight to get to that level of understanding. Many souls are going to see those visions of enlightenment come to you. Let us join in hands is where a lot of people would assume he would be at one point. He was a fighter. He just didn't do it in the way that made sense for some of us. Others are very confrontational in the vision of, I need to tell people who they are based on my own perceptions of what is or isn't in this world or in my own reality. Okay? When you go up to a soul who has embodied their soul from a higher level vision, do you think you're on the same plane of understanding? Not even close. When I go into guidance mode, that's a whole different story. When I go into the vision of who I am as me, outside of the vision of guidance, I will say that is my vision of racial biases that I am working on. Others will say you are part of the problem. I will say, by golly, I guess so, in your perceptive abilities. If you feel like me bringing through the information that could help you actually rise into another level of understanding of how we are going to do the changes that need to happen in order to get us to that better place. That's what your soul does for you. Okay? We know the vision. We're not here to demean those who are lifting themselves up into the vision of, I have changes to make in my life. These are those words that people will slander people with, right? This is that idea of placing labels on people, right? It can literally bust a business. People will say, this person is racist. I want to talk to you about something related to those souls who are in those sessions. And when we say, this is about the racial inequity at some point, but the honor of this work was about the pronoun uses and whatnot. And we want to talk about that idea of he, she, they, them, whenever we use a pronoun, we want to be very, very honoring of the fact that many are feeling that way because they're actually within the vision of a lot of the souls who have already risen into the vision of, I don't feel like I am what people think I am or what I was assigned. That is a beautiful expression. Many in the spiritual alignment community actually already understand that to a degree that a lot of others don't. It's going to hit home for a lot of people who say, what do you mean they have an understanding of it? It spirals you up because you take off those identities that are limiting to you. And this is the nature of soul embodiment. You could literally be a male embodied soul in the body of a female and not even realize it. There's more to it than what most people understand when you go to the vision of who I am. I can produce visions of males within the system of love that can come through and say, I very much understand that nature. So this isn't telling people what to do or say. It's here to say, I love who I am. I don't take on the negativity of another label unless I choose to do so. So for those of us who say, I can honor that vision, and I will say, this is who I am, right? It's one perspective. You'd be surprised what your higher self, they might say that's a place for you to grow from. But don't expect everyone else to fall in line when they go into that vision of I am of love. Do you want people to take that on, and for what reason? It makes me feel like you're going to do your work. Is that true? Or does it now set us up for a system in which we all identify as the label and we assume that it is what? Has it desensitized everyone now to, well, I guess that's what we all are? Is it landing a punch? Is it supposed to get us to get up and move, do some work? Right? You're not going to get anything. If I could say you are soul, does that mean that you go in and do your own soul work? Because I can tell you right now, soul work is living. So you're all doing soul work. But most people will say there's other kinds of work when it comes to soul. We're not going to dictate to people what they are or not supposed to be doing, right? It is. This is the nature of the changes that we're going through. But this is part of the acceptance of who we are as love and as souls. So when I bring through the views of Martin Luther King, he would say, I honor all souls. I will not demean another in my vibration. That's the simplicity of it. However, others would say that soul was very much disillusioned with his vision. He only went so far. He can't be trusted as his wife. Do you want to hear from those souls? And what would they say about a soul who claims she's loved, but is very much of a I am of neutrality when it comes to gender? I love men, women, and all that claim either or neither. Okay? There is no vision that is not love because you are all souls. Okay? You can claim, there are souls that will claim they are other than that. But in essence, well, we would, yeah, that's the nature of it. But we're not going to go down that path. So, in essence, his wife is saying that is one perspective. They had to unwind the vision of love when they got to the other side of the veil because those issues of mistrust that they both had, right? She had her own visions of affair. Is this a degrading of their beautiful visions of work that they did? Absolutely not. They were treasured and cherished always. Others will have their own opinions and biases against what they did or didn't do, or the ways in which they perceived the threat. Do they perceive the threat from this woman? No, she goes in and actually does her work. But does she do it the way that others want her to do it? That's the question to be asked by all of us, right? What are people asking for? What do they want for us to do? I can either help or hurt. Does saying that I do not call myself this help or hurt? Or is it an internal vibration of love? I'm letting people know what is happening on soul levels all around the world. Okay? Some will say this is the beauty of soul. Others will say it's conditioning of my mind. We can go down that path of Martin Luther King Jr. and what his family would say. They would have a problem with anyone labeling anyone anything negative, correct? Think carefully about the disempowerment of soul. That's what those terms do. Now, are we here to take down the power dynamic between various groups, systems, organizations? Absolutely. Some of us are here to do that work. Do you want to hear from the souls that did that work and say, now I understand? When you go to the other side of the veil, so to speak, most of it does indeed get unwound. Does it mean we don't do it here? Absolutely not. That's why a soul session for each soul is more in alignment with your fight is the true fight, right? Everyone assumes they've got the answers, but it's a collective vision that we usually want to go to when we talk about the nature of societal impact or societal change. But when we go to an individual who I love dearly, I listen to a lady as Brenda on TikTok who is so educational in her viewings and is blessing us with her wisdom of what that is, to be Black and to educate my soul on her perspectives of what change is in her mind or what needs to be done. But it's literally, it's like about opening our hearts to love is the foundation of it. If we can't get to that vision of love is all, we're not going to make it past that. And that's what someone like me would say. Not in public, of course, right? That's why he's coming through saying, you will have so many people using your vision to discredit the visions of those who want us to, what? Make the changes necessary. Do I tell you that I love you, or do I say I am placing a barrier around my heart? I open my heart to those who have struggles with my wisdom. And I say, I can understand. You have issues with my wisdom. You have issues with my own soul. You have issues with my own life. Right? I was of life. That's his soul. He's all, we vibrate in the beauty of soul. And when we when we vibrate in soul, we just don't give a blank about what other people think. We don't. We say, I know, I understand. I can understand. I can't understand. And that's the magic of my soul. I can't possibly understand your struggles. Can you understand mine? And people will say, are you kidding me? Have you not thought about the wisdom of love? How many people are saying what we choose to place our focus on is where we create from? If you go to those visions of understanding that, that's the nature. Most would assume that there would be a lot of changes. You want to know what kind of vision this one has to unwind with that idea? I had to sit there and hear from those souls who were sitting there vibrating in the beauty of suicide and had to keep, lifting them up. Do you want to do my work for me? I'm not going to do your work for you, right? That's a different kind of story. It's literally about labeling ourselves. Anything disempowering isn't going to help us. Let's put it that way. Now, does this align with those who are, oh crap, now I know why I'm not with this woman, because she's not going to cater to my own vision. Your own soul will get a completely different vision depending on who is or isn't either watching or on the screen. So that's the vision of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. They had their issues. They wanted to come through in support of all souls, not just black, and definitely not in that idea of, oh, we have to stick together and be as one. They would say we can create the divisions on a soul level. It's the nature of light, right? It depends on whose vision of love you're operating under, right? How many people assume when I go, you could go to a realm of religion and vibrate in that vision. That's another perspective, if that's what you want to do. You can go into that vision of, I'm only going to create a place where me and my family of religion go. Or even a family tree dynamic. All of this gets unwound at some point, people, when you go to the vision of the dimensional visions of love. And this is why I don't cater to those who feel like they have to make changes by going after others. Okay? But I can tell you right now, I can support you in your vision of I need to make change. I'm one of those change makers. I just don't do it in the same way. And that's where a lot of people go. You know, we're all here doing the best that we can with what we know in the moment. And if we have to take down a system of anarchy, right? That's what some people will say is coming up on the screen. We have people here who are like, we've got anarchy in our, ranks. It's in our midst. We're not going to assume it's in the military, but it's here on this plane. The anarchy vision is high. There's a lot of people that it's kind of like based in that. It could be on either side of that issue of race, right? Does the vision of anarchy serve us well? Who wants to know where that vision's going to go? Okay. But it's the betrayal of soul. People will feel betrayed by Brenda's vision if she doesn't support them outright. You are guided by your soul vision. I support you in your visions of love. I cannot demean anybody's vision for who they are or who they are in this moment. What I will say is that in my own vision of guidance and what I was told and what lifted me up was I will not demean myself in anyone's presence, nor will I bow down, unless you happen to be from Japan. I do not demean myself, nor do I lower myself, and I would give that to anybody. Do not lower yourself to anybody else. Don't assume I'm better than. That's what people will start to think with the ideas of soul. But by golly, I did my work and I'm not going to lower my worth or say that I'm less than anybody. I put all of us in that same category. We are all worthy of love of soul. End of story. And if you feel like it's somehow going to discredit your message, it's not. It's just a different plane of understanding that I work from. When I come online here, it's a whole nother story. Do you think I would be vibrating in the beauty of Vladimir Putin in this plane, without the vision of soul guidance? No, I'm not in support of the man doing what he's doing in my heart, but his soul very much would be in one level of understanding. He would support him. He may have something to say that would lift him up to a higher vibration of love that would give him pause to what he is doing on this moment of time. It's like time is of no consequence for his soul. Okay, so we're not saying this is a roundabout way of discrediting anybody's work. Everybody's work is honored. You are all doing your work. You are all doing your beauty. You are all amazing souls here. There is no less than. In essence, others will try to portray another person as less than, even on a soul level. That's a whole different vision. I can unwind that vision. We don't look at life as in hierarchies, but there is those levels of understanding. You want to go to the vision of I need Christ in my life, just stick around for a little bit and you might start to find out more about when that other vision actually starts to come through. Others will reach that level, feel the vibration of it, bring it down and say, that's the one for me. Okay, I have people in my life who are still crying out for those visions to help them, guide them through those heartbreak moments in their work, right? I thought this was about love and compassion and forgiveness and whatnot. Now we're being told, no, that's not enough. I have to move mountains for people in order to be looked at as qualified for what? As a guide? How many people know that? A lot of us do. We do. We have to move mountains sometimes, and that's what people are starting to do. I know how to move the mountains. Do I hurt someone in the process? And I'm not just talking about the minds. See, that's the thing. People say, if I put a label on me, does it hurt me? It's one thing if people will start putting, names out at others. But if I start to embody the vision of what a racist is, do you want to really see what that looks like? Do I tell you about my family history? Do I tell you about how I now what? What does that do on a soul level? I'm not going to do that vision because I know I'm better than that, right? People will say, what? I don't have to take on that vision. Do you want to know what it's like to take on soul visions from a lower level of understanding? That's all that is. Those souls who say, I am this, and actually are proud of it, own it, and say, yeah, this is who I am. I'm part of this system, right? It's like, in some ways, it's disenfranchising people, but it's also empowering other people. So there's a give and take in the vibration of what ownership of a word or its word as an identity is going to do for various people. It could backfire, believe it or not, on a certain level. Do you know why? Because if it is an honest assessment of what we are as people, that's one thing. But if you're working with the vision of, I need my strength, I need my strength. My strength is to show people how we have been hurt, oppressed, and condemned ever since we were brought here and continue to do. It's like that's continue. It's like when I do the work, others will say this is going to inflame egos. Do you see why the spiritual paradigms are more in alignment with the vision of love of all? Right? I don't go out trying to inflame egos, but that's what happens. People will react in various ways. I'm going to go in and do my work. I want to support everybody. I'm not going to be able to people please everybody. But I will bring through those souls that know how to say, you are honored for all of your wisdom that comes through, whether or not it is agreed upon by society's change makers or not. See, that's the nature. When I go to those higher levels of wisdom, the collective visions, when those prophetic visions start coming through, this is when you start to pay attention. Okay? That's the nature of it. Some of us work on an individual societal level. How about we work in our own communities first? These are those change makers saying, I'm going to work within the community that in which I reside. Others will say, I'm going national. Others will say, I'm going international. Racial inequity is all over the world in various places. So this name is one of many that's going to be around forever. We need to spiral it up into a higher vision at some point. And I'll do that work. It's not going to happen in a moment. It's one moment in one period of time that is of no consequence on a soul level when you go to the vision of where we all end up in the end, right? There's no end point at this point, but others will say there is an end point. It's indeterminate at this point. That's what we want people to understand. But where are we headed with that? It's a good day for those who want to imbibe upon the vision of, yeah, I kind of feel uncomfortable with these labels that people are telling me I have to take on. And we would say, it's okay. Love yourself through those visions. Just because you take on a label doesn't mean you can't love yourself for it, even if it's negative, right? How many people want to do that vision? We don't. My guidance, well, we can. We love ourselves no matter what. People can put a label on me, right? Not if I don't accept it, right? It depends. Everywhere we go, we're asked, what race are you? What is this? What is your gender? So this is society's like upcoming, right? We expect everyone to be the same, right? No, let's honor our differences. Let's open up to the nature of love for all. That's what we're hoping for. The contention that people feel, though, is that we need a fair shake in this world. That I will grant you for sure. I know how to do that vision. That's where some people will say, this is where we start to spiral in those communities where they're starting to come up with solutions that are more in alignment with, this is what's right. It's not about right or wrong. Others will say this is about right or wrong. It's literally what feels right. Okay, because society creates on such an infinite level of understanding, and those in the spiritual alignments know that. They know this is just one time, multiple visions coming through. I get levels of understanding from various levels. So when I go here, though, that's when I say we are going to be going through that period of change that people are feeling like this is a time of reflection. So let's just use this time wisely and go through this period of reflection. I love who I am. I hope you do too. Wherever you are, I want you to love who you are. Your soul will come through and say, you are loved. You are honored. You are adored. Own that vision. Own those labels. Take that vision on and be happy with that in this moment. That's what we want everyone to end these sessions with. Some of it feels shallow, right? Or hollow when others are in the field of vision of I'm suffering or I'm being held back by others around me. That's when those visions of individual souls can indeed come through and say, here's the vision of where you are. Here's what needs to be done to get you to a higher plane of understanding, right? No. Some people are like, no, I love it here. I want to do the work here and now. And I enjoy my vision of putting out, videos that are helping people to enlighten them to other ways of living or other ways of being. It's a being. We are beings of love and light. This is who we are. So when we invoke those nations, we can also unwind that vision very much so. But we're not going to do that vision. We're going to kind of wind this down. It's getting a little long. Okay. So with that in mind, we want to say, again, this is not to demean or demoralize anyone in their visions of I need to make a change or the labels that I use are going to be unwound, it will hurt a lot of people. You can call yourself whatever you want. We would just honor the vision of call yourself something that's beautiful and create from that. And that's what everyone's trying to do. Right? We want people to be lifted up. And when you go into those higher visions of love of soul or love of all, you don't call people names that take them down. It's very, very honest work. Your souls come through and say, would you like to be called X, Y, or Z? And if the answer is no, then you need to think about very carefully whether you would be placing that upon another's heart. It's just the mind. Our hearts know better. We're already connected to our souls from various levels. So anyways, I want to honor you all with your beauty and say thank you for joining me for this episode of Guidance for the Soul. I will be doing some of those more controversial visions with those beautiful souls that I honor. And even in the spirit of 76, okay, this is a quick one. Everyone's assuming that the Pluto conjunction or the Pluto return actually is going to be causing a major catastrophe. We will align with those who understand those changes are now going to be done on an internal. We will see those changes happening within the vision of, well, it could be that vision of Christ's soul coming through, but it's not actually. We're not going to plant the seed of that as a destructive vision. It's literally an internal combustion that people are feeling, and that's why we would say, let's love ourselves thoroughly through this vision. It doesn't have to be painful. Soul embodiment is on the way. This is the internal combustion engine that is called Pluto. So those in the field of vibration of spirituality or astrology, they will often look to those kinds of systems that incorporate that vision and say we're creating beauty from it. We know this is a time of massive change. On a societal level, there is an impact of some sort. That's why these visions get created. It's not destruction on a nuclear level, let's put it that way. It's the internal combustion. This is why we are seeing this. This is a long, drawn-out process when we go to that vision of astrology. I can tell you right now that as more and more souls start to vacate, why do you think we have the vacating of so many souls? New souls are coming in to plant the seeds of love for all. This is the nature of it. They are already the wisdom keepers of the world coming in as children. Let us lift them up in the beauty of who they are and ride the waves of love. This is the next generation of love that's coming through. Do not demean the visions of any soul. If you feel the need to hate, please honor that vision of it. We do not want to emotionally stifle any soul. We do not want to stop any visions of grand change from happening. How many people are waiting for that vision to come through? It's in another episode. So with that in mind, I want to honor your hearts, your souls, and your visions. Take care and have a wonderful, wonderful day.